Hi, friends. I wanted to come on here and interview Dad because it's been a while since we did that, right? We did that kind of
That's right. Yeah.
in the middle of what was going on with Mom, and maybe I had you on video a little bit some other times, but everybody's been asking about you, and we're just so fortunate to have the support that we've had, regular support here and online, and people we know, people we don't know. So I wanted to
All
ask,
right.
so I asked them if they had any questions for you. And I may throw in some too, but you and I talk a lot. So if I think it's really important, maybe for them to know on their journey, I'll ask you. But otherwise,
Okay.
I'm going to ask you some questions that they've asked. They kind of know what's happened since Mom died. You know, they know that we've moved and all that. So Leslie wanted to know that she said, I know some days were so hard for you and your dad. She was his love. Was it really hard for him to leave the house that they'd lived in for so long?
I'm still working on that. But anyway, no, I think the distraction needed. Selling two houses, including mine, of course, and yours, and going to a new location closer to our relatives and good friends was really helpful, I think, and it sort of was a positive distraction, and made it easier to actually leave our two houses.
Had you thought about that before, Dad? Like, I know that we had talked about it kind of at some point when Mom was really sick. But before that, did you think you would just live there forever? Had you entertained anything else?
I think I was a little overwhelmed by the logistics of it, thinking, oh my God, selling two houses, moving. I was thinking it was going to be tough, and hopefully worrying about selling the two houses to be able to cover the cost of the new house with the new, my house, for instance, we paid $60,000 for it in 1979. Of course, we invested $40,000 on the new kitchen and pantry. That was quite an addition, and we made a porch immediately because we love porches.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was.
Yeah, you had done quite a bit to the house and everything, but
Yeah.
when you thought about, I know the logistics were something because both of us were kind of freaked out about
Yeah.
that. Thankfully, we ended up having a ton of people help us, and
Yes,
we could
we had
take
great-
it.
We were fortunate in a couple of ways. One, I had long-term care for Linda and me, and we had two great caregivers that we were able to afford. And hospice, I was thinking hospice before was, that's 1 or 2 weeks before somebody dies. But this happened to be 7 months worth of home hospice that was so valuable. So we were really lucky to have all that and be able to afford that. And with you next door and your best friend, a nurse, Allison up the road, whatever, we were very fortunate that way. And I realized that all along.
Yeah.
And the relatively slow process for Linda's. I mean, some dementias go fast, I guess, but Linda's was slow, and it allowed time to adjust. And of course, when it ultimately got to Linda saying no more food, and then our favorite nurse said, okay, that means
Yeah.
10 days, maybe max.
And we had so many
she died,
signs.
yeah.
We had so many signs during that time that the food was not helping her. It
No,
was actually
no,
hurting her.
She was
She wasn't able to
pouching-
process
pouching
it.
the food. She couldn't swallow it.
Yeah.
And we were urging her to swallow it, and it was
Yeah.
getting rougher and rougher.
little scary.
She decided this is too much, and it was
Yeah.
too difficult to do the swallowing action. And our assistants, with wanting to push food into her, thinking, well, gee, she needs nourishment and all that.
Yeah, we
And
want
she
it.
was saying,
Yeah.
I'm getting to the point where it's a little beyond that.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. And
So many people go through that. Like, they go through that, and their loved one, I don't know how mom actually verbalized it, but she did, and we were grateful because when she verbalized it, it really helped. But if you have a loved one who cannot verbalize it, you need to talk to the hospice people, because there are telltale signs where that is feeding them is actually more dangerous.
Yeah.
And they've gotten to the point where they're not going to get better, and they don't have much quality of life at that point. And at that point, it is not a cruel thing. You're not starving them to death. Their body cannot process food the same way anymore. It's not helping them in any way, and it actually may make them have a worse kind of death than if they don't eat. And they don't have an appetite like we do. It's very different. So I'm glad. I think we needed each other, Dad, to talk each other through that time, because that was tough. That was like the end of the road where now it's going to happen in a matter of days.
And I think the move itself, once we got up here, it was relatively quick to forget, hey, Linda's no longer at that house, or you next door.
Yeah.
And that made a big difference too.
That was a blessing.
We left behind, all those reminders,
Yeah.
Of course we have enough stuff.
We brought a lot
up
of
here,
damn
but
reminders.
Enough to remind.
We did.
Linda, she was good at keeping every picture that came along, whatever, and writing in her diary and
Oh my God.
notes about trips we made and everything. She loved to make entries into little diaries, and
Yes.
I think she made
And we
a
have it
running
all.
account of every trip we made, and
Yeah.
we weren't quite aware of how much she actually saved until we packed up and said, oh my God, here's some more stuff that Linda,
Yeah.
and look at this, look at that.
Mom really seriously couldn't have been left behind at the house, because everything that she ever saved and owned is still here with us. It's
Yes.
probably an entire room's worth. And we'll deal with that later. But I think one of the things that I have felt, and I know that you have too, but maybe you can talk a little bit more about this, is that I'm really kind of surprised at the lack of feeling and connection that I have when we go back to the houses. I mean, I feel like after we made that decision and Mom was gone, that house was never going to be the same again, and I don't feel her there really. I remember things about that, but I don't feel the same. It's like we left behind shells. To me, it just didn't have the
Plus,
same feeling.
What we did to improve, the old rugs went.
Yeah.
We put new flooring in, the vinyl.
Yep.
And wood-like stuff in the living room, dining room, and family room, and then painted the brown,
White.
white. In the family room. People were thinking that family room's a little too dark, in spite of the sunlights that.
Right.
What do you call them?
The skylights.
Skylights, yeah. That Linda immediately said, let's brighten up this room. And we had a carpenter who had never done it before, put a couple of skylights in the family room, which made a big difference. But it still was dark, too dark for some people once. So we painted the dark paneling white, after we left. When we, after emptying the house.
So did that
So
help
it was
you?
a little different, obviously, and maybe helped in saying, well, this is good for somebody else, but it isn't exactly
It's not your
how
house
we
anymore.
left it.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't as comfortable.
True.
It seemed a little newer
Yeah.
and improved, and maybe it helped us to adjust.
Yeah. So how
To
do
a
you,
beautiful house up here,
yeah, I was going to say, next question about that is, how do you feel being here now? Like, how does it feel to you being
yeah. I
here?
feel pretty decent. I mean, we obviously have a garage full of stuff we have to deal with, but otherwise,
Yeah.
we have a beautiful new
mountain.
house, and what we made on those two houses will adequately pay for this house, thank goodness.
Yeah. That's
And,
security.
so that was, and your house went immediately when we put it up the same day, basically, when it went for sale. Mine took a month or so.
A little bit
we
more,
were
yeah.
wondering,
Yeah.
and but once we made the improvements, I think it was more sellable, new rugs and the new
Sure.
flooring.
Yeah, it
whatever.
looks
So-
good. It looks really good.
So that helped also. We knew that it was doable. The plan was working for us.
Yes.
As I say, we're so much more fortunate than others who may not be as fortunate, maybe with the great hospice care and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
I would that others, everyone could have had the support we had, I guess.
Yes. Yes,
You know,
we
that-
talk about that a lot. And some of you
There
who've
are so
reached
many
out
situations and
have not had that kind of support.
Yeah, we were certainly fortunate in that respect.
We were.
And the long mother's process in dying was what, 9, maybe 10 years, but we're still trying to figure it out.
It
But
was 9 to 10
7
years, yeah.
7 months in home hospice care.
Yeah. That was so helpful. Well,
was-
because we couldn't get her medical care really anymore because we couldn't get her out. That really bothered
Oh,
me.
yes, yeah.
That we couldn't get her out of the house. We
Yeah,
couldn't
there
get
are no
her.
country doctors that come to the house anymore.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a thing one day.
Thank God
I
for
think it's going
the
to.
nurse
Yeah.
regularly from home hospice. That
Oh.
saved the day.
Well, yeah.
Basically.
And they, yeah, absolutely.
And at the end, the morphine and the instructions and what to do.
Yes.
And easing her and making sure she didn't have pain.
Yeah. She did not have pain.
No.
She rallied. She had a really cool rally. That was awesome. So,
And she was entertainingly talkative.
yes, she was. She was entertaining.
She loved
Somebody,
music. Now that would be great, but moving her,
oh, it
she
was
let
terrible.
us have it.
Yeah.
And whenever we moved her or rolled her around for a bath or changing diapers and all that good stuff, whatever, all the stuff that.
Yeah, not
And
fun.
I knew there were times when she felt so vulnerable and ticked off that she couldn't do it on her own. I'm
Yeah.
sure that was part of it,
Yeah, and we
And
knew that.
She'd come out with
Woo.
you stupid
She-
bunghole, and
Yeah.
she had some. But that's mild compared. That others was mild.
That's mild.
compared to-
She'd curl your hair
she
with
was
some of
very
this stuff.
innovative, and we
We
had
did
to
laugh.
We had to laugh at the way she used some swear words. I mean,
We did.
She was very creative.
She was very creative. Yes.
I did recall. Remember, I probably told this before, but it was when I thought that she wasn't with it very much, mostly not with it during the day. When I came from the kitchen into the family room, and for some reason I just said, "I be fine," and immediately she said, "You be stupid," and it broke me up. And I said,
Yeah, but-
"Man, Linda's still there."
She didn't call you a redheaded
No,
bunghole. You stupid. Now, what'd she call me? You stupid
You be
redhead?
stupid. Well,
Yeah,
that
or
was-
whatever.
you were a stupid redhead immediately.
Oh, whatever.
But she would come up with
Dumbass. No, I was a dumbass redhead
okay.
bunghole. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, I want to ask you some other questions. Okay, so let's see. Somebody wanted to know that, well, they asked me this question, but I'm going to ask you. Well, they asked if Alzheimer's ran in the family, and I said, I don't think so. Really, Grandma Claire had it at the end, and I think that might have been exacerbated by the surgery that she had. Remember, she had her gallbladder out. I think,
Yes.
I don't think she would have had, like, she didn't have like traditional Alzheimer's. She was
Her dad died. It was the early 70s, maybe, because
her husband, not her dad.
actually,
Mom's dad.
Mom's dad.
I was talking about Grandma Claire. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I know. I'm talking about Linda's dad.
Yes.
you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And he was an alcoholic, and he had pancreatitis. And then when an alcoholic gets pancreatitis, that cures them from taking alcohol anymore because they don't want that pain again.
Yeah.
When the doctor promises, if you don't stop drinking, that pain's coming back.
Yeah. He stopped.
Pancreatitis or AA are the two things that'll stop,
Yeah.
drinking. And he kept smoking, but he had a stroke early 70s.
He had a stroke when
So
he
we
died
don't
when he was
know-
70.
We don't know if he lived to 80 or so, if he might have, or mid 70s,
Right.
if he might have developed what they call white matter disease, which was dementia. Another way of saying dementia.
Yeah.
When Dr. McCaskill, when Linda had a head scan, an MRI, and they
CT,
saw
yeah. Yep.
the white matter collecting in her brain.
Yeah, and what was the first thing. And the other thing was somebody wanted to know if you feared your future. Do you fear the future because of what you saw Mom go through? I mean, I said,
No,
I think about it, but there's nothing, I mean, you can only do so much, but what about you? Do you fear the future?
My health, my future,
I guess, yeah.
or being without Linda and missing her so much, etc.
Maybe that too. But like, do you have any fears about the future? That's a tough one.
You help a lot. We're living together, obviously, and if I were all alone, I had no relatives, and I was on my own, it'd be another story.
Yeah,
But
I agree. I would feel the same way.
Closer to kids, grandkids, good friends.
Friends, yeah, we have such great friends
We
here.
are very fortunate. So
Yeah.
if I were all alone, I would maybe fear that somewhat.
Sure.
Maybe quite a bit.
Yeah, the support makes
Because
a huge
loneliness
difference.
is a big thing.
Yeah,
I haven't been lonely because here we are together and we're closer to relatives and friends
yeah,
moving.
yeah. So it's not the
move,
same
yeah.
as some people who lose somebody and they're on their own, and that was their person,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's silent, and maybe they don't have people around them. So
again, we were
support-
fortunate again.
Yeah.
Possibly.
And I think that support is very helpful. I think that when people are in that situation, the more support they can find, the better. Like, even if it's just getting out and talking to some people, because otherwise, I mean, what would your whole world changes. I mean, when that person dies.
There have been a few occasions when I maybe something happened and I'd say, boy, wait till Linda hears him. And I said, oh, yeah.
Yeah, you forget.
I can't do that. Of course, I can tell you.
Yeah.
But there are
not
things
the
where I
same.
said, oh, yeah, she's dead. I can't do that. So
Yeah.
there are a few quick
Yep.
things. Oh, Linda would love to hear this, and I'd love to have told her, but she's gone, of course, and I can't do that.
Yeah.
But
That does change things
but
a
maybe-
lot.
she's up there knowing all that stuff. Who knows?
Somebody wanted to know, how did we let Mom know that we would be there when she was first diagnosed? How did we reassure her and let her know that we would be there for her until the end? I know that I did a lot, because she was always talking about never wanting to go to a nursing home, and I used to tell her as long as I was breathing,
I think
as long as I was breathing, she
we
wouldn't.
conveyed that to
Yeah.
her, saying, "Hey,
Yeah, we had a
want-
plan.
we want you to stay with us
Yeah.
to the bitter end." Basically.
Yeah, we had a plan for that, and we were like, we had things set up, and we were fortunate to have things to set up. But
And we did
having,
have the long-term care again.
Yeah.
Where we did the money
yeah,
was set aside for that eventuality.
and I think I was pretty honest with her. I remember saying to her at one point, if I didn't feel like we could keep you comfortable or take good care of you, we would do whatever it took. And she just was okay with that. Like, she knew that. And I said, probably that would be really toward the end. And that would be maybe like an inpatient hospice center. And she was okay with that because she worked for hospice and, she volunteered for them. So I think that she was comfortable with that.
Few sessions times when she had to cry, and it would break me up when, it was earlier on in the dementia when she knew what was happening to her, and she was frustrated and cried. Usually anger was what her
that was her go-to.
Her go-to.
Yeah.
But there were times, a few cries that really got to me, and
it was gut-wrenching.
That's when, maybe I was fortunate for the anger because I could laugh at the anger. That was a good release for her, and I felt helpless when she did cry a few times, and I was helpless to be able to comfort her in a good way, and that really broke me up.
Yeah, we've talked about.
I was kind of thankful that she could be angry and I could laugh.
Yeah.
And at times, I think she got a kick out of
shocking us and seeing
our eyes open with the expression, and all we could do was laugh, and I think she half enjoyed that.
Well, I think
this
that
is funny, but
we could deal with that part better, and we talked about this a lot because there are people who this person has Alzheimer's or FTD or Lewy body dementia or whatever kind of dementia, and they are stuck in a place that is very sorrowful. Yeah. Now, early on, Mom was given an antidepressant. I will say that. I remember her neurologist saying that was a big way that they treated dementia. And basically, my take from that was you can be demented or you can be pleasantly demented. And pleasantly demented was a lot better for Mom during those phases in the middle where she was actually very happy and not a fake happy. Because it helped her to let go of some of the stuff that was bothering her. And so she actually had a really good several years of very happy quality of life. So it's not the end of the world when someone has dementia, because Mom had some times in between where she maybe forgot some of the things that upset her more and really embraced life. Yeah. You remember that phase? Like it was like a couple of years of just happy to be here. It was in the middle.
And I think, and we did 3 Hawaii trips, knowing we love Hawaii.
With her dementia.
My past military experience got me to Hawaii, and we had good friends in the middle of Oahu who we could stay with, and we wouldn't go broke. And we made several trips before Linda had the dementia, and
several trips when she did.
And we had 3 trips, I would say, every other year, covering 6 years. The last time, the fall of 2021, that was the knowing we couldn't do it anymore because she needed a wheelchair, and it was right on the edge of being unable to. Yeah. In spite of you and your good friend Allison, a hell of a nurse, that went with us, it was still a little bit of a load, and we knew this was the last trip we'd be able to do it, right? And it was still COVID time.
Yes.
The governor of Hawaii said, "Don't come over here." There was a summer of 21. Yeah. Don't come over here because we're loaded up with COVID, and you have to be masked and all that good stuff. And we thought, oh, that's good. We don't have to go away from a patio overlooking the ocean.
We were not the typical tourist, and we had no expectations of anything that they were going to provide for us except to get Mom there one more time.
Yeah.
And we went to 2 islands, Dad. I mean, honestly,
Went to
we
Maui
were
for 3
brave.
days in a B&B.
We were
And then
brave.
caught a 1-hour flight to
Yep.
Honolulu and Waikiki, where the military hotel,
Yep.
the Halikoa, sits right next to the Hilton Hawaiian Village.
Yep. And she loved it.
Ideal location. The grounds are about the best in Waikiki.
Yeah.
You know, the beautiful flowers and the greenery and a beautiful setting. And they have the best real estate in
And
Waikiki.
she enjoyed that trip, and so that was what, the fall of 21.
Mm-hmm.
And
the end of October, beginning of November.
Yep. And we knew after that, we took another little small trip down to the beach, and she really didn't
Yeah, that was
enjoy
the
it.
spring.
She didn't enjoy it. We wanted her to, and she loved the ocean. But so we knew that we got to her to Hawaii in that window of time where she could still enjoy things, because she was really not. She didn't love.
Hawaii. And
Yeah.
the anticipation of Hawaii and planning
Yes.
is all kinds of fun.
She was so
She
excited.
She loved the music of Hawaii.
Yeah.
She liked singing Over the Rainbow, you know.
Yep. It was fun
all that
watching
stuff,
her
yeah.
on that trip. Okay, I have some more questions, and I know we're kind of running short, so I'm going to ask the other. Okay, so I'm guessing your favorite, somebody wanted to know, what was your favorite memory with Mom?
The Hawaii, but then Spain. We were between tours, and it was the spring of 73, before my Goose Bay, Labrador tour. Cold, barren up there. We had a month between tours, and we took leave, and we had about 3 weeks in Spain.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Loved it. Yes, we got to. We were getting into what they call paradors and nacionals. They're government-run hotels in Spain, and they're the best of the best. You could stay in a castle for something like, it would be, at that time, it was less than $100 a night, and here you were in a castle built in the 700s. And we were in the tower room, and we saw that very tower room a couple months later in Time magazine, saying there are still some good places to go in Europe, and we saw the very room in that castle that we were in.
Yep.
Now, Linda was the one who got us there. She was brave enough to try the Spanish, broken Spanish.
Yeah.
And we were on the bridge across the river to the castle when we had a Polaroid camera. Little kids were coming up to us. We were taking pictures of those kids and giving them to the kids. And the kids were watching their faces come alive in a minute or two. And there was an old guy from the castle who was caretaker, and he came out, ambling out, and Linda and I would say, "Oh, please God, have a room available." We were catching cancellations because people would get rooms years ahead, and we were just looking for cancellations. And he motioned for us to follow him. And I think if it weren't for Linda in her broken Spanish and me too chicken to try to talk to in Spanish, it was Linda and saying, "Oh, please, por favor," and all that's, knowing that we'd love to stay a night or two. And he brought us into that tower room. If we were ugly Americans and weren't giving pictures away to the kids and being nice to the kids in the village, we never would have gotten that tower room. I know it for sure. And that was the highlight of a great 3 weeks in Spain. We ended up with an army colonel and his wife, a lieutenant colonel and his wife. He was a chaplain stationed in Germany, and he was on leave with his wife. And we had a great time for 2/3 of that tour with him and his wife.
That's
It
great.
was great. We had a great
What
time.
a nice memory.
And that one time where we stayed a couple of nights in that particular tower,
Yeah.
we went from Parador to Parador and caught several wonderful places. We stayed in another place in Cordoba, had
Yeah.
black marble floors in the rooms and the hallway, and overlooking orange and lemon groves
Yeah.
with a big stone pool and everything, looking down and looking across those fields.
Yeah.
We stayed in a regular hotel just
gorgeous.
to have 2 days in that, the openings the next few days.
Yeah. Wow.
And we almost got into the Alhambra where King Ferdinand and Isabel in Granada stayed when they kicked out the Moors from that beautiful Moorish fortress with the gardens and everything. It was beautiful.
Wow.
Couldn't stay there. There were no openings, but we stayed in a quaint little place outside the gate. Of course, we had a nice tour in the Alhambra, but as I
Nice.
said, that would have been it would have rivaled the castle.
That's so great.
Yeah.
So somebody and they want to know, do you have any bucket items you still want to accomplish? Or are there things that you think about that you still would really like to do?
We're going back to Hawaii.
Well, back to Hawaii is
In the spring.
yeah, absolutely. We got that.
We do have our good friend Chuck Tengan. That's short for Yaeko. Judy died, say June, and Junie and I flew out of Laos. On the Ho Chi Minh Trail in 1967 and 68. We were pilots trying to stop the traffic coming down from North Vietnam, and their go-to way was to get through Laos
Yeah.
and come into South Vietnam around the DMZ. And we were looking to interdict the traffic, all night missions. But anyway, Judy died some years back, but we still love Chuck.
Oh yeah, and she
She's
turns 90.
She
turns 90 this year.
She'll be 90 in November, but
Yeah.
she's still doing everything. She's a spitfire of a little woman
Yeah.
who just keeps moving. She's like the
Yeah.
Energizer Bunny.
Okay, somebody wants to know, let's see, what do you believe is Mom's legacy? That's a good question. Do you believe, what do you think that what's Mom's legacy?
Well, I was in the military as an officer, Air Force, a pilot, and later on, after I had enough flying, into staff work and everything else. And when we had our Goose Bay tour, Linda ended up president of the Officers' Wives Club, and that was something because she was dealing with colonels' wives and everything else. And then we moved to Seymour Johnson in North Carolina. We come down here, and then she becomes OWC
President
again. So she was a leader. She was a
Much-
born leader.
very much a
very
leader.
social. In church, she had her church ladies, and we had them on the porch, whatever. Linda was a born leader. She loved that. As I say, that was. She had her own mind.
No.
Yeah, you know, is right.
No. She was not in any
was-
way outspoken.
She was strong-minded,
Yep.
strong-willed.
Of course.
Smart. When her church decided that we couldn't attend the chapel on base anymore because she says that's for active duty people and you had to go to the Catholic Church off base, she took exception to that. Obviously, you couldn't do much about that, but she always believed that the the real core of the Catholic Church are the people in the pews and not the leadership. And that was
Yeah.
kind of interesting. She differed in
Well, she loved the people.
certain things about the Catholic Church.
Sure.
She just as soon didn't care for, and she'd have great arguments with the priest. And if
Yeah, she
ever
didn't
come
hold
across
back.
nuns or whatever. Yeah.
She didn't hold back.
No, I mean,
she would tell people how she felt, and I think it's funny because when I do that online now, and it's kind of funny because we got into this whole thing with mom having dementia and teaching people about our journey and all that kind of stuff. But the backstory to that is I grew up with a very strong mother who was extremely independent and very much an advocate for people, and she was all about women's rights and all these things. So it's kind of funny when I delve into that, especially politically, because you know how hot that can be right now. But when I delve into that, there are people who are like, hey, wait a minute, you're not supposed to talk about that. And I think my mom talked about that all the time. And I'm still representing my mom in a lot of ways.
And Linda had no training in social work.
No.
Yet she was a heck of a counselor.
She was, absolutely.
My sister Bonnie, who ultimately ended up, with a PhD.
Yes, she was a very good counselor to your family members.
Needed counseling early on, and she did a good job.
She did, and
with her friends and relatives.
Yeah,
they would turn to Linda about religious things and whatever. I mean, Linda could conduct a counseling session on a porch.
We had porch therapy quite often.
There you go.
Porch talk.
The porch was the favorite place to do that.
Yeah, I used to say if the screens in porch could talk, the stories it would tell.
So we know where you got this from. How you got
right.
This.
I got formally trained.
You got formally the counseling, but Linda was pretty good counselor without the training.
And a hell of a teacher.
She was a natural.
And a hell of a teacher. My mom was a very out of the box. Well, she was an out of the box teacher who did not put up with people telling her exactly how she needed to teach. She was very much.
She believed in academic freedom.
Yes, academic freedom, and her students just loved her and still do. Some of them attended her celebration of life. I've heard from many of them on Facebook. So I think mom's legacy in a lot of ways was teaching people and counseling and supporting people, making us laugh, definitely making us laugh. And I think that, putting herself out there, even though we didn't know it was going to be on Facebook, we knew she was always open to teaching people.
Yeah, maybe we should say, maybe up at Goose Bay, you and Craig were, what? How old were you up at Goose?
I was in the fourth
11?
and fifth grade.
Okay, you're about 11 years old, and Craig 9 or something. And we went to Mass
10
on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And Linda noticed there was no singing, there was no choir. So at a particular time in the Mass, Linda says, I'm going to do something. I didn't hear this, but she told this to Beth and Craig, I think, were ready to hide under the pews.
We actually did, I think, dive under the pews. At a certain
time, Linda decided to sing Silent Night, and we all joined in. The whole Mass, I don't know.
The whole church joined in.
The priest, it probably shocked the priest.
I'm sure.
It wasn't part of the schedule.
Yeah. She couldn't stand the thought of a Christmas Mass with no music.
So she started everyone singing Silent Night.
Yeah. And at her celebration of life, my friend Sandy, when Dad told that story, my friend Sandy started it and everybody sang Silent Night. Yep. That was the sweetest thing. I loved that.
It was beautiful.
Yep. Okay, let me just ask you one more question.
Linda. That's what she did. She saw a need and she filled that need.
Yeah, she was not afraid.
No.
She mortified the hell out of us sometimes with shit like that. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I mortified my children as well, but not quite like Mom. Mom, she did not hesitate. I was a little bit more like oh, maybe we shouldn't do that. And Mom was
It's
like,
such a,
no,
you
we're going to
know,
do it.
Mass is very structured. You know?
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, you don't mess with Catholic
I
masses,
know,
just saying. Okay, somebody said, what is an important thing to help a person prepare if they get dementia later? Is there any words of wisdom you would have for somebody? Like if you were diagnosed, you've seen Mom go through it. So let's just say you were diagnosed with dementia and you knew that you had probably several years of this. What would you do, or what would you want? What do you think is smart? I think some of the things that we did, that we talked about,
of course,
we got our financial shit straight. Basically, we did healthcare powers of attorney. We talked about what Mom would want and not want at the end of life.
A bunch of stuff. Obviously, reach out to caregivers. You know, there's so many forms of it, I guess. And of course, the ultimate was the hospice toward the end. And I didn't realize. I thought hospice was a week or two before somebody dies.
Yeah.
This is months.
Yeah.
It was 7 months before. And look at President Jimmy Carter. He's been under hospice for over a year, still alive.
Yeah.
And
well, and it goes in hospice
again.
For people that don't know. Also, I believe, and I could be wrong about this, so check into it. But some people would say, "Well, I don't have insurance." But if your person's on Medicare, Mom's Medicare paid for hospice. Dad didn't have to pay.
No, that's correct.
Now she had Medicare and TRICARE for life, and I don't know if that mattered. I don't think it did. So if your person needs hospice. And when we looked at hospice was when we could no longer get her medical care that needed to come into the house. And she qualified at that time, which was good. But Medicare paid for all of the necessary medications, everything that happened.
It wasn't long-term
It went
care.
through her Medicare.
It wasn't.
No, it wasn't long-term
Medicare.
care. Medicare. So that's a good thing. And I think just the most what you can prepare for, whatever you can prepare for. And with Mom, I think we didn't talk about it a lot in the beginning, because when they told us white matter disease, we didn't even really kind of know what the hell we were getting in. We didn't really know.
It was so very gradual for her. I mean, there are different speeds, I guess, I'm sure. Everyone's different.
And at some points it would have made her mad if we said certain things. But I think when we all did our healthcare power of attorney together, we talked about definitely having what I would do if I had somebody with dementia who was just diagnosed, is talk to them about a durable power of attorney, so that when they weren't able to make decisions for themselves, they had a designated person who could, and that was all legal. So I would definitely consult an attorney or somebody who knows the law and do those things in the beginning.
Power of attorney wasn't enough.
Durable power of attorney. Yeah, we found that out. And anything that my mother's name was on, if we had it to do over again, we probably would have taken her name off of things ahead of time. But she had trusted people like my dad and me. So for somebody else who didn't, it would be always good to think about, if you were diagnosed with something, who would you trust to make decisions for you? Who could help you through that? I think if you have a younger person in your family who can help you navigate stuff on the computer, or if you can have somebody kind of help you with tech stuff, because a lot of things happen on the computer now, and scanning things and taking pictures with your phone. I mean, there's a lot of that. If you can pick out a person and say, hey, if and when I can't do these things, can you help me with those things? Kind of set things up. That's what I would say. That would be my thing. Yeah. But anything else that you can think of that you think?
Well, just on the mental side, I guess we had the plan to do things that we and she like to do,
yes,
knowing time is going to run out, and we'd do as much as we could, and get it in, a little bucket list of her own that we could afford to do. We were lucky.
And we did simple things with her when we realized that she really, really loved being in the car. and driving around and just looking at things.
We would just
we just put her in the car and drive around and look at lights, or like if it was around Christmas, or we would just put her in the car and drive somewhere and come back. Maybe Dad would run into the store. There was a certain point in time when I wouldn't take her in the store anymore because it was just horrible. So I would sit out in the parking lot with her, and Dad would run into the store. But she just loved riding in the car. Remember, we'd just take her for rides. And then when we realized she couldn't get in the car anymore, we were really glad that we had done that. So it's hard, and other people don't understand unless they're doing it. Like when I said we can't get her in the car anymore, I really meant we can't get her in the car anymore. Like 'cause she would yell and scream, and we couldn't get her to bend or sit down, or she didn't know how to follow instructions about actually physically how to get in and out of the car.
Yeah.
And we probably would have been arrested for trying to abduct her had we tried.
I know.
She would have been like screaming for help, So in any case, we can laugh about those things now.
And Linda loved music of all kinds.
Yes, the music.
She loved opera. She loved popular 60s, 70s, 80s, the folk music, the old, the Beatles, the Simon and Garfunkel, the
everything.
Stuff we grew up with, Neil Diamond, whatever.
We took road trips. We listened to music all the time, though.
Yeah,
I mean, every
James
day,
Taylor,
just about.
She just loved it, and that's when she'd be in her own world listening to the CDs we'd put in, the little Bose stereo we had, or on TV we'd have Pandora going or whatever. And it was wonderful. She loved it, and
she did.
And she in the early days, I mean, in junior high, she sang in front of her assembly, light opera, for crying out loud. And then she was a member of the Music Gals in college up at University of Massachusetts. They cut a record, when they were, she was one of the 3 lead singers in about there was about a dozen sorority, well, there was a dozen women.
Yeah, we played some of that for her. Remember, my friend sent the record player, and we played it for her. So I would say too, look at what your person enjoys. Try different things. My mother wanted nothing to do with artwork or drawing or coloring or any of that. Now, earlier on, she enjoyed the coloring books for adults. She enjoyed that for a little period of time. After that, she didn't want anything to do with anything like that.
She used to be a good knitter, but then
she couldn't do that anymore, and that was very hard. And she couldn't read anymore. So when she couldn't do those things, we had to find other things that she liked, and that's when the music really came into play. Telling her memories. That was something else somebody had asked really quick. Somebody had asked about towards the end when she couldn't communicate with us and it was kind of gibberish, or when she really couldn't say much of anything. How did we handle that with her? And I said, I think both of us did the same thing. We told her stories, and we said, we told her good memories. And I used to say to her, I'm listening, Mom. I hear you. I didn't understand a thing she was saying, and I recorded some of it. I haven't listened to it. I don't know whenever I'll be able to, but she was telling me things, but I couldn't understand her. So how did you handle that part? What did you do when she couldn't really talk to you much?
I don't know. I would, every now and then I would talk about what we enjoyed, and hopefully it got through to her.
Yeah, I think it did.
I don't know, but
I think it was comforting, even if she didn't.
When, you hoped it got through.
Yeah. So overall, I know we've spent. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
She used to devour books. I mean, every 2 weeks she'd go to the library, turn in 10 books, get another 10 books, and she could read about a book a day.
Yeah, I know.
And oh man, when she, it was kind of sad when she continued to want to take a whole bunch of books, I tried to say, how about taking about 5 or 4 books, knowing it was the habit, and she wasn't going to get into the books anymore.
No.
The reading became more and more difficult, and that was sad, because knowing that she just loved reading the novels.
Yeah, that was her escape.
Yeah.
She loved to read.
She was an English teacher. She loved, she loved that.
And she didn't want, I thought maybe audiobooks would work out with her. She couldn't process listening to a story either. Yeah. So the thing that helped, I think, was the music, playing the music for her. Also playing the music. Also concerts on TV or Les Mis or different shows that we had seen, old musicals with a lot of color, some Disney movies that had music. She did really enjoy those almost till the very end. So that's something I would try if you have a person who's dealing with this. Anyway, we've been talking for about 50 minutes now, so I'm going to wrap it up. But overall, I think we're doing okay for 6 months out, don't you?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll keep checking in, and we're here, and I'm going to keep posting things, and thanks for being here with us, and love you guys. Bye.